All right, so we are moving to our last speaker of the day, Dorothy Henning. And I didn't plan this, but it could not have worked out more perfectly for her to be the last speaker of today. She's going to energize us with an exercise a little bit later in the session. And so I'm thrilled to get that. She's also got a little surprise for us later in the discussion as well. So I want to introduce her. She is from Louisville, Kentucky as well. And Dorothy is a woman who is literally changing the way we move through the world. She spent over 20 years working at the global intersection of movement and neuroscience and hands-on clinical practice, which she integrates to inform each of those components. Her practice is deeply rooted in world-class education, which is very impressive. She's completed her intensive Feldenkrais method studies in Switzerland and earned a specialized degree in the physiology of sports education while in France. After her training, Dorothy spent over a decade in Strasbourg, France, where she operated a private practice serving high-level competitive athletes and individuals with neurological issues, including collaborating with the Strasbourg Ludica Center. I hope I pronounced that right, Dorothy, for people recovering from stroke and traumatic
Mm.
brain injury. She brings today that international expertise to our community, and locally she collaborates with the Norton Neuroscience Institute, helping people with multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, and neuropathy improve movement and regulate their nervous systems. You heard earlier from Rosa Hart and Jeanette Lenore, who is also part of the Norton Neuroscience Institute. She pursues the latest advances in neuromuscular movement and plasticity to help you unleash your own superhero. And as I was saying, this really is sort of a perfect tie-in because as I started the day out with you be the only superhero in your story, not the only superhero, but be the superhero of your story. And Dorothy is going to continue that theme. I see she's worn her superhero outfit today. Thank you, Dorothy, for modeling that.
You're welcome.
And just lastly, you should know that Dorothy is a guild certified Feldenkrais practitioner. It takes a lot of work to get to that, and she can speak to that. She's also trained in the Havening technique, and she specializes in self-regulation, which is why another reason why she's perfect to help us close out our summit, because as we've learned, self-regulation is a component of every single issue. And when you've had neurological challenges, that comes into play regardless of what that challenge is. She uses the laws of physics and biomechanics to help the brain find safety, curiosity, and ultimately new pathways for recovery. So the other thing you should know personally is that Dorothy sure gets where she is going too. So she's not only helping you move, she's moving herself. She swam across the Golden Gate in San Francisco, says the traffic on the bridge was bad that day. So keep an eye out for her arriving in her yellow SpongeBob car and follow along with the superhero adventures. Thank you, Dorothy.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
What a fun little detail to add into that conversation.
I thought make people smile.
Oh, excuse me here for just a second. I seem to have lost
Sure.
my place. Let me get back to where we are going. Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you. So, Dorothy, we don't have any slides today intentionally, and I'm so thankful for that change of pace. I'm really glad to just have a very engaging conversation with you. So, before we dig into the details, I really did want to let our audience know sort of that they're in for a treat today. I mentioned it earlier. You're not only going to talk us through today, but you're going to teach us and provide a movement lesson for us. So, thank you for bringing that exercise driven, movement driven component into this session. So you just let me know when the time is right and we'll do that. So I kind
Okay.
of wanted to set the stage though for everyone. how did that rigorous training in Switzerland and France shape the way you view the science of rehabilitation today?
That is an interesting question because I can tell you when I was um, present and my training, and as time, I felt my head was turning 180 degrees. It was so different than the paradigm that I had been experiencing before this time in any of my studies, because I discovered that Feldenkrais helps you discover more ease and efficiency in your movement, but this, which in turn, I love the way it improves how you move and function in the world. So it activates a way of learning, of neurostimulation that involves the brain and the entire self. So it has all aspects: thinking, sensing, feeling, and moving. And that's what was so different. And that it doesn't just offer fixed solutions, like something set, like outside criteria. Instead, it creates the conditions that invite you to explore and to develop your innate capacity to listen to yourself, to sense yourself, and to sense yourself in relation to the world around you. And this leads you to discover new possibilities.
Thank you.
You're
So, for
welcome.
as somebody who's tuning in, there's a lot of people I think here today who have a sense of Feldenkrais. But if you
Yes.
don't know what Feldenkrais, can you just break it down for us, please, and explain what that is?
Well, that's why I'm like, you can see I'm wearing a superhero suit. And if you look closely, there are no superheroes on it. That's because what I want you to be able to know is that you are your own superhero. So your nervous system is your superpower. It holds resources you may not even realize are there: your own neurology, your own capacity to adapt, to learn, to take care of yourself. And that's what I want to show you is how that works. And I'm thinking, really, as a nice beginning, would be to talk about, before I get in, because I will tell detail more of the method. I'd like to tell about a particular case, about a particular person. I think that can be
Okay.
so helpful with that.
Yeah,
And
do it.
I want to talk about Sandy, who has MS. And once, when I was working with her individually, I'll explain that more later. She was lying down with her knees bent, and I asked her to lift the front of her foot. She contracted with effort, trying desperately to lift it. And the harder she tried, the more her whole leg and body got involved. But the front of her foot just, would not lift. And so I gently asked her to stop for just a bit. And I asked her to make the movement gentler, to allow it to be almost ridiculously small. But with this, I can say, you could see she felt a wave of grief. She said, I just feel like, is that all I can do? And I could see that it felt like losing something. This is a difficult place to be because acceptance is not always easy. We paused and we gave that feeling some space, like a larger container to hold what was going on. I acknowledged how hard that must be. Then I kindly asked her to think about the connection. I mean, to let go of the goal of a big visible movement and instead to concentrate on the image of a connection going down through her leg to her foot, to focus on the sensation and to focus on it with kindness and ease. And I looked closely as she did this, and I saw that her big toe was moving just slightly. It was not a big movement, but she was doing it with her own control. And in that tiny movement, her nervous system found a cleaner pathway. And I said, well, let's celebrate this. She said, it still felt disappointingly small. So I said, well, why don't you get up and walk? And she did. I knew this. Holding her ambulator, she walked forward and she was astounded at how much her walking had improved, how much easier it was, lighter and more stable it felt. And I could see it too. Yes, the toe barely moved, but when she stood up to walk, her walking was suddenly easier and more stable. So nothing got stronger in that moment. What changed was the quality of the connections in her nervous system.
Yeah, so I think that example was really great to share right now because it's all about the small movements in Feldenkrais, right? So it's reconnecting our opening up those pathways within the nervous system so that they communicate, and those small movements are what helps you bring attention to it. So is it is Feldenkrais a therapy, a form of education? Like how do you describe it?
Okay, that's a good question. It's neither medical nor therapeutic approach. The method is an organic learning based process, so more of an education. And I like to quote Dennis Reese, who's an authority. He's died a few years ago. Was an authority on Feldenkrais, Dr. Mark Reese. And he said it fosters improvement by accessing your inherent neurological competencies. Love that word, competencies. We have these competencies already by increasing self awareness and the facilitation of new learning. So I wanted to share a little bit about that. And I think actually a really good way to explain the method, since I find that to be, really the main question. I mean, just like what happened with Sandy, that her nervous system for her with MS is dealing with disrupted signal transmission, but more effort meant more noise in her brain. So we don't want that. We want to create a clear signal. And clarity beats force, okay? And in that process, remember, grieving cannot be skipped. It's something to pass through, because without acceptance, we may keep yelling at our nervous system to do better, as if it were stubborn, right? And when she let go of that demand for a dramatic big foot movement, that's when you saw the difference. So the nervous system can reorganize when it's no longer being bullied by effort, because bigger effort does not equal better function. Feldenkrais used
Yeah,
to say, yeah,
oh, I'm sorry. No,
that's
go ahead.
okay.
I
I was going
love
to say
that
that
comment
idea.
that you just made.
Mhm.
Yeah. It clarity does not equal or beats force every time. Is that what the statement
Exactly.
was? Yeah,
Clarity
clarity
beats
beats force.
beats force every time. And Feldenkrais used to say, and I'll explain Moshe Feldenkrais and who he is in a moment, but don't try hard, just listen. And it's so simple, but that's exactly what Sandy's nervous system did when she stopped forcing and started sensing. Like, you don't train the toe, you train the brain. And so this didn't happen by accident, right? We create conditions to help facilitate these neuroplastic changes. And it's conditions that make learning easier. I like to think of it, I'll tell you, when we're talking about explaining this, I like to think of it as learning how to speak the nervous system's language. The Feldenkrais approach is designed to do just that. So let me explain it using a simple image. So imagine you're at a dinner table. Everyone around the table speaks the same language. In this case, we'll say English, except one person. Now, if that person doesn't understand, maybe you've experienced this, does yelling louder in English help? No, nothing has changed there. This is true for the nervous system. We need to create the conditions for clarity and positive neuroplastic change to take place. So, for example, in MS, the signals in the nervous system can be disrupted, are noisy. So the brain is constantly working really hard to find clearer pathways. And so our job is to create the right conditions. Another example, living with Parkinson's can be frustrating when your body doesn't seem to do what you want. There can be unpredictability, slowness, stiffness, and freezing. So what are those conditions? Let me show you 6 of the conditions. Some of these you may have heard. I really like to approach things in a way that's really accessible for you, whether you're a practitioner here today, but also to reach everyone who is trying to get a grasp on this idea that, as you were just saying, Sherry, is such a new paradigm, in our way of thinking. So one of the first conditions is you quiet the noise. And noise is a neurological term. That can also be rough movement or fast movement, because we talked about doing smaller movements and slowing down, reducing the effort. It's like as if everyone at this dinner table, they were all talking at the same time. Wouldn't it be hard for the one person to be able to get what was being said? You may have been in that situation yourself. So we want to create space rather for the brain to notice what's happening. Second, no force. Okay, yelling, pushing, trying harder doesn't help. That's what we were just saying. Clarity, not intensity. Third, no judgment. Absolutely non-judgment. Say if they were at the table and someone said, "Oh, you don't know that." Well, The brain learns best in safety, not in criticism. Like if the person doesn't know a word, you might offer another example. We shut down when when it isn't coming at us in a way that we know it's a good idea for us to do that. That's really important that it's meaningful to us. You've probably heard us talk about salience, throughout this summit. And I like to again make that very accessible. So it's what's meaningful. When it doesn't come with force, it says, "Oh, this is worth looking at. This is meaningful." Another, the fourth, let's go on with, is mistakes are essential. They're how we learn. And we learn to compare, to sense differences. You'll see comparisons come up in the as I teach, and I'll try to use everything we're talking about. I'll kind of mention it even more when I do a little teaching, because that'll help you have the connection of what exactly we're doing and why we do it. In fact, I like to think of mistakes. It's not mistakes, they're approximations. And every approximation gives the nervous system new information, correct? So we want to sense differences and compare. All of learning is really about comparing. We compare this to that, right? The fifth one is it has to be pleasurable. Enjoyment tells the brain this is safe. Again, this is worth exploring. And sixth, it needs to be novel, that other pleasurable, meaningful, and then novel, meaning new variations wake up learning. We pay attention, and then we want it to be meaningful to pay attention. So that's why we'll do variations when we're doing a lesson. And so I know sometimes people say, I'm not going to remember all that. And I'm tell them, you don't have to. Just show up. That's what's so amazing. It's like a training is happening without you realizing it in a good way, and the consistency of doing it allows the nervous system to keep building those connections. So you're learning on a much deeper level with your sensing.
Yeah, I think Dorothy, it is worth though I know you can't remember all of this, but that's such a core. Those learnings that you just shared, those six principles are such core foundational components to neuroplasticity. So just give us the name one more time. List all six for us.
Okay, let's
So
list all six. Okay,
yeah,
so first is quiet the noise. And
quiet
remember,
the noise.
noise, the neurological term, can be, right? It can actually be false movement. It's not necessarily sound, right? I mean, fast movement. Two, so no noise, or quiet the noise, no force, non judgment. Mistakes are essential. It has to be pleasurable. And sixth, it needs to be novel. Hmm. I
Yeah,
think,
we haven't talked a whole lot about novelness in this
mm,
conference, and it just hasn't
okay,
come up in the conversation. But it is such an important piece of it, and that because that's how you stretch and grow those neurons and move that forward. You move from point A to point B. That
exactly.
novelness is what it also is what stimulates the interest, right? The pleasure piece of it. In many
Exactly.
cases,
Right,
yeah,
right.
it can be negative to, and depending on the situation and the
It can
context.
be. It can be.
Yeah,
Hmm. And so
right.
we're going toward positive neuroplastic change because it can go either direction, neuroplasticity. So we're looking for positive neuroplasticity. Absolutely. Hmm.
Yes, right. So I this whole piece of like I don't know, I don't want to bring it up too much more, but I do think it's so important to understand why the clarity versus force is so important in what you do. Can you just maybe explain that from a neurological standpoint just a little bit?
Okay. So what happens? So your nervous system is designed up to this point. I know there's changes as we go. We say designed, and then yet there is constant changes that are taking place to have to take in what is good for it. And only you can be the judge of that. And so often throughout our whole lives, we're taught to take in the point of view and adapt the point of view of others until, without even realizing it, what we're doing is actually a habitual compromise. Those words are carefully chosen because it's a habit, but yet it's a compromise. So this is about getting back to knowing what is right for you and using your senses to tell you what that is. So if there is too much If there's force, then your nervous system says not safe. And we can sense that through our body, through our skeleton, because that is one and the same. How we feel in our support through our skeleton is how we feel supported and safe in the world.
Thank you,
That
Dorothy.
answer
That is
that?
what I was, that habitual
Yeah.
piece, I think, was the part I was trying to
Hmm.
uncover there. And I've experienced that in my personal issues with my mom. I took her to a Feldenkrais after her surgeries. She just, even through physical therapy, could not return to an upright position. And she had to, it was not until we went to see a Feldenkrais practitioner, those very small movements to really eliminate the habit and eliminate the force piece of it. And then within 2 lessons, honestly, it was really one lesson. It took two to kind of get it fully back to normal. But I was shocked and surprised by how the one lesson in that redirected attention and breaking of habit
Hmm.
uh, did the trick.
Exactly. And I think the word, I don't even like language means a lot because it's how it helps us build our paradigm in a society or within a context and breaking habits. What an idea. I mean, often when the idea of breaking habits, we break ourselves. So I
Mhm.
like to think of it for fun, kind of like tricking the brain. It's an incredible brain. You have to kind of know, or your nervous system, you have to kind of know, again, know its language. So if you present something a little bit novel in a different way. It could be to use it in the movement aspect. You move in a way that the same idea, but perhaps you do it laying down instead of sitting up. Your brain doesn't think it's the same thing. So it's willing to take in new information. So that's what is really important about how it can. It's like the how-to guide for this idea that we've been talking about with neuroplasticity. And it's not with any medications. That's what's so interesting. It's with you and finding those resources within yourself. So as like for your mother, as she would do these like incremental movements that were manageable, she could have success and she's really willing to go to the next one. Sometimes, I mean, I have fun and I like to, like, I'll be the brain. So you're about to do a movement. You're going to force it and you're going to go to the limit. That's another thing that I can speak about is how it's not always a good idea to go to limits. And people say, yeah, but I'm not have a lot of problems. I should be able to push it. I've worked with athletes actually training to improve their time to be in the Olympics. And we improved with these same ideas. So whether you want to get up from a chair, run a marathon or get up from a chair, it still applies. So when we force ourselves and we're going to go to the limit, our system, it kind of knows your nervous system, like, here you go, and here's your brain. So it's getting ready and you're going to do a movement. And it says, oh my gosh, she's going to do it. She's going to do it really hard. Everybody get ready. Let's contract, let's tighten up and get ready to protect her because she's going to do it anyway. Nothing's learned. It's about total protection at that point. When you stay in the safety zone and you do a movement that's smaller and safe, you're free. Your brain is free to learn. It can say, because if I want to draw your attention to say, you're moving the arm, and I might say, how do the ribs feel? If you're so worried about safety, you can't think about that. You're not open to that. So that's why it makes a
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a great tie-in from our last conversation, right? The amygdala being taking over from the prefrontal
Exactly.
cortex.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's just the prefrontal cortex goes offline. It says,
Mhm.
it's just not necessary at that point because amygdala says danger, we've got to protect, and that is not a time for learning. So to create the conditions for learning. So I like to say this isn't just like, oh, emotional safety. It's just sort of a soft idea. I want to learn about, real movement. You need emotional safety to learn, to improve, to have real movement. It's not just an idea. Like that's why I talk about radical self-kindness and being kind to yourself, which softens your heart to be kind to others. That's not just, like I said, a little idea. That is actually a requirement. It's not just a slogan. Oh, I should be nice to myself. It's actually a requirement for healing and for learning. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're just reinforcing what we heard from so many other speakers that it is that mind-body connection. It's the whole composition that is all connected. You can't separate those into different pieces and truly get at it, because that lack of safety affects your neurochemicals, which affects how the brain works, which affects how the movement works. So I just love how this is being. I mean, I've been a big believer for that for many, many
Mhm.
years. And so I love how now the science is finally catching up to it and all the,
Finally.
yeah, finally. Thank goodness for the neuroplasticity paradigm shift.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I want to talk a little bit
Mhm.
about some clinical applications for Feldenkrais. I think we understand what it is now. So let's talk a little bit about how it's applied, and maybe a
Okay.
little bit about your Norton neuroscience collaboration. So I know that you work with them, and they I guess, can you just tell us what Norton Neuroscience Institute really is, and the clients that you see there and in your private practice, like with Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis? How do you incorporate Feldenkrais into their recovery, both in your private practice, and then how do you work with Norton Neuroscience to do that?
Okay. Well, with Norton, I teach in a group setting, and at this point, we've been doing it online, so it's very accessible, and it is the
Hmm.
Feldenkrais awareness through movement that I teach, and there I have people that have a neurological issue, which is the only requirement to be part of it. And it actually, due to a generous grant with the Norton Healthcare Foundation, it's actually free for participants. So it's a wonderful opportunity for everyone to have who needs this to have a chance and then not have, the weight, of the cost be part of it. And you've had others speaking here, which is wonderful, about the Norton the Norton Neuroscience Institute. I mean, they have such a range of, I would leave it more to them and the specialists in that to talk about, the range of doctors that is available, whether it's for movement disorders, post-stroke, MS, it goes, the list goes on. And there's also physical therapy specific to these different needs.
Yeah,
And
I
so
was just
that's
trying
what,
to get at
yeah,
what you
but
did
my
with
role
them.
is. So
So
my role
that
is,
class.
yes, so my role is the teaching, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
My role
Okay.
is the teaching with them. And I could tell you a little bit what a group class looks like. I think you were probably wondering, like, what really happens, right?
Yes.
Right. So I'll walk you through it a little bit. And that happens in that class and also with whenever I teach online. And then I'll tell a little bit about, it's really incredible to also do it in private practice. So we have both. We really have both. So let me tell first about the hands-on individual session, because I think that's
Yeah.
wonderful to know about. So you're most often lying on a comfortable cushion table. You could be sitting or standing for part, but lying down it's a very interesting moment, because information enters in through your feet. And so when you are lying down, you don't have, like, it's entering in through your feet to tell you, this is how I stand, this is what I usually do, this is how I am in the world. So when you take that out of the picture, when you're lying down, your system is actually more open to other new changes and new possibilities. So using my hands, I guide you through gentle movements with a soft yet clear touch, and this enhances your sensory motor capacity. So without insistence, my hands suggest, and then, this is important, sense your response to determine how we continue. It's almost like a conversation. And this is called functional integration. So it's a communication in which I set the context to evoke your innate biological capacity to integrate. To integrate. What does it mean to integrate? It means basically to bring together what you want to do with how to do it. So we're applying the very conditions I just described, and using the language of the nervous system, not forcing, listening, no judgment. And when we work this way, Sherry, something remarkable happens. The brain and nervous system have a tremendous capacity to adapt. Through neuroplasticity, they can reorganize the brain, the nervous system. It reorganizes. It calls on other neurons to participate. It's as if the brain says, I know this wasn't your job before, but maybe you can help. It's like an orchestra where one musician is missing and the others subtly shift parts to keep the music going. So
Yes, I love
communication,
that.
Yes, I think it's just, I like to have the metaphors that help. I want you to get it, take it inside because so much of what I said, it's so practical, you know. Force, I mean, has anyone ever tried with force or yelling to get their teenager to clean their room? You know, it doesn't work. We have a protection against this to not have something come in that way, even as adults. And communication between neurons is always happening, always moving. Connections form and reform. We've been probably talking about this here. I'm just summarizing. These pathways aren't fixed, they're living, flexible, capable of change. And all of life is movement. I want to talk a little bit about that because movement is also about our attention and about our thinking. Yeah. So, we were talking a little bit earlier, Sherry. I thought you'd be interested in a little about traumatic brain injury in a particular situation, the case
Yeah.
I had with that. Would that be interesting? Um,
Yeah, I think so. Let's hear if you've got a couple of case studies about stroke or TBI and how
mhm,
you use
mhm.
both Feldenkrais and the Havening process into that. And we haven't gotten to that Havening connection yet, so please weave that in.
Sure, I'm excited. So I go to the different things that I'm excited to share with everyone. And I was just remembering a situation where someone came to me who'd had a very bad, it was in France, and she'd had a very bad stroke accident, ski accident. And and something that stood out to her the most, I'm going to say in this case, is really about being able to connect her thinking. And the thing that was so hard for her, she'd be at work and it would be like, well, you look okay, And so people didn't understand how hard it was and how hard it was to make the words come and to be able to organize her thoughts with them because she would look fine and basically be able to talk okay, but sometimes that would be very difficult. And so what was exciting was that after seeing her for a few times, seeing me for just a few times, she said, I can connect my words now better. I have more, she had more clarity, more organization of thought, and the words began to come with more ease. And so that is something I wanted to share, that it enhances the ability to process and articulate thoughts. And I know that can seem like, how does that happen with movement? Well, for all of this, I have several studies, and in this, and I have presentations someone could see, and I can mention the studies here that I know have support this, but I really wanted to give everyone an idea of how does this work? How is this hands-on? How can we make it, facilitate change in us? And so thinking is connected to it. And there is a study that was done called about mindful movement and skilled attention. And it's that executive, attentional, and motor skills, they have a shared function and neural basis. Isn't that interesting? So it's not just that, oh, there's thinking and then there's movement. You need thinking in order to move. So, I mean, even attention is about movement. If I asked everyone here now, oh, just how many circles anything circular could you name in the room you're in? Even if you hardly move your head, your eyes are moving, or you'll think inside. So attention is really about shifts of attention. So when our attention shifts, that's an idea of movement. So everything about life I wanted to say about movement and to show how they're so interrelated. So we then can take in new information in order to have these changes take place. And I thought a little fun thing, especially, having gone through doing the whole summit, is what is information? Does anyone have an idea what information is? There's things like I like defining things or having them be clear. What do you mean well, I don't know. Like, how would you define that?
I would say I have thought about this because of
Mhm.
neuroplasticity. It's sensory
Exactly.
input. If
Hmm.
you just break it down, it's sensory input from
Well, mhm.
yeah.
It's sensory input, yeah, but what makes it information? I really like the explanation by the anthropologist and social scientist Gregory Bateson. He says information is it's news about difference. Think about that. Because
Okay.
it's news. It's news. Information isn't just what's come, it's actually news. So it's news about something different. So that's why we use so much comparing.
The comparison component, I see.
Hmm. Hmm.
So Dorothy, you just shared that case study or that of what happened with
Hmm.
somebody with a traumatic brain injury, right? And I think
Hmm.
earlier we were talking about somebody with multiple sclerosis.
Hmm.
What about Parkinson's disease? Do you have a case study there specifically you could share?
I do. I do. I had someone that he was actually in a group class, so this can happen as well. And what he said was when he would go to roll over in bed, he said he would have this feeling of paralysis, like it was going to be like scale, like a huge wall, like impossible to overcome. That to gather himself in such a way, and that can happen. That freezing up sensation, and that he had such difficulty rolling over. And what happened by the end of the class, the way he said it felt, he actually has a ribbon that he would put under his insole in his shoe because his fingers, it was hard for them to work to pull the insole out, like the little addition that goes in order to put it in another pair of shoes. So he put a ribbon under it. Well, he said by the end of the lesson that we had done, he said he felt as if a big ribbon was under him and rolling him from side to side. It was
Mm,
himself. And that was a huge necessary function he needs to turn over, to be able to roll in bed. And so that can really be helpful with a freeze technique. I could even show something also in standing, something as well helpful. So that's a story of that. And to mention another with post stroke is a woman that she had such trouble like holding a yogurt cup in the hand that could not function as well. She just wanted to hold it so the other hand could use the spoon. And everyone is different and how they respond is different. Every stroke is different. Every illness because it also has to do on how it affects you, who you are to begin with, what your system is. And I know that she just she just said that she had just seen others where their hand never opened and she got where she could hold the cup. And even with that, even when we were working on it and she was going to move, the same thing came up. Well, she felt like, she felt angry actually when she was trying to move her leg that didn't work well. She said she just was really angry and we stopped a moment because that's where the self-kindness comes in. But the grief has to happen first because it's really hard when we lose our health or abilities. It can shake our sense of who we are, and that's a very human part of recovery, and it's something I try to recognize in my work. And I just said, let's pause a moment because she felt angry, and I said it this way, in a metaphoric way. Of course, we're not separate parts, but I just said in that moment, well, just think your leg didn't ask for this to happen. None of you asked for this to happen. It's doing the best it can. And we just go from there. And she started to bring this to it. But you can't just, like I say, you just can't skip you know, the feeling. You have to give that space. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so you
So,
have to address the emotion when it comes up
mhm.
because it's so
That right.
interconnected to the movement.
Exactly. And that what has happened. Hmm.
Dorothy, I'm wondering if it wouldn't be, we've got a couple questions. I want to get to those questions, but I think the
Okay.
movement exercise would actually be better if to show us what that actually looks like and let us experience it before we
Bef-
get to these questions, I think. I think it would help maybe answer some of those.
Okay, and so I think some of that's going to make sense because I talked about describing it, but we're actually going to do one. So I'll just give a quick description and we'll start. It's verbally guided movement sequences. And again, where we're incorporating those very conditions I was just describing, the conditions for the nervous system to learn. And you learn a skillful use of your attention and to sharpen your body sense. So we're going to do that and to let go of habits and they've become fixed through time, injuries, adapting to danger or damage to your nervous system. And we're often lying down. So, but we're going to do one sitting today because I think that would be so practical with us, meeting here together and facing each other. Okay.
Yeah,
And
great.
remembering that it's not doing the lesson itself, it's not the movement that brings the improvement. It's how you are listening to yourself. And we're not used to that. Like, show me what to do. Let me make sure I do it right. I obviously, I'm going to make sure I'm going to describe it in such a way that I don't want anyone to do anything that's unsafe. I'm just saying that you stay with what you're sensing and what's right for you. The same as I was saying before about habitual compromise, where we've been told things so much. How do I start using my senses to tell me what is safe and what feels best? And I'll guide you to listen to that as well. Okay?
Okay, thank you for doing this for us. Okay, everybody, participate. I want the participation. Let's do this. Take advantage of the lesson Dorothy's giving us. So, let's give our full attention to Dorothy. And we're ready, Dorothy.
Okay. Okay. So you need to have a chair, and a flat chair would be somewhat better if that's possible. Like, but not a rolling chair, if that's okay. Just because then that's going to turn underneath you. So I'm just going to switch here real quickly. And again, it's although it's not just about demonstration, it doesn't hurt for you to have a little idea of what's going on. So let's sit on the chair and be comfortable there. I'll get like where the camera's at a good spot for that. How about that? That helps you see me
Yeah, it's
somewhat?
good. We see
Yeah, yeah,
clear.
just to be able to see me. And settle in. You've arrived, right? And for the moment, can you come toward the front of the chair and have your comfort there? In fact, just to have a little comparison, though, I'm going to change that and say, sit back against the back of the chair for a moment. See what that's like. Let go. That could be our pause. You'll see the importance of the pause because that's when the nervous system takes in information. Not while you're doing it, it's in the pause. I really want to stress that or underline that today for everyone to add pauses into their lives. And you learn that. It becomes a training of that in these lessons. I have many of my clients and students will say, I heard your voice in your head, time for a pause. And that's great because it's actually a time to integrate and take in. So you're feeling the back of your chair. How does it feel? How comfortable it is? You feel your bottom on the chair. Now let's come toward the front and see if we can find a way to be comfortable here. You feel your feet on the ground, your two sitting bones on the chair, right? And we'll do a little movement like to compare so that we can do that, more at the end. And that would be just, let's say you're just lifting your hand, like you were going to put your fingers on a keyboard, a piano. Many of us do the computer but you could do the movement, but I'm going to ask that you do it in such a way like how easy does that movement feel? How light? There we go. And then let's compare it with the other arm. It's wonderful. We have a comparison right within ourselves. And I may mention some things where you're not as used to that, sensing that finely. And so that's okay. If there's something that I ask, well, I don't know if there's any difference, but you just noticed does one feel has a little more effort, one's a little lighter. You have to go slow, or your brain says, I can't keep up. I don't know what happened, right? It'd be too noisy, wouldn't it? So you go slow to notice. So now we've noticed that, and we'll see what it's like at the end. Lift both arms, see what that's like. The ease with that, not going to your limit, staying in your safety zone. Absolutely don't do anything that hurts because again, that'll shut down the learning. So the old idea of powering through, that idea like I'm going to just get through it like we do with pain, it's admirable. It got you to this point. I really believe we should honor it and thank ourselves for that. And then we also can see, well, does this still serve me? Maybe I can learn another way. Because it eventually will come up to you where if it tries to tell you what's wrong, and then when you don't listen, it'll start yelling at you, like I'm really hurting. And so we want to really listen early so we don't go to the limit. So now just turn a little bit with your eyes about at eye level and notice, oh, what is that like? What do you see? So that can help you have something to compare it to. We'll use something really on the outside of us, like I see to a certain place on this fireplace. And then you go to the other side. Is one side easier? Do you feel like you go a little further without effort, without forcing? See, all the learning happens in the safety zone. We let it grow on its own. That's it. And if you want a clue now to know if you're forcing, usually there'll be a change in your breath. You'll catch your breath or you'll hold your breath. So just breathe easy. No, there's no pressure to go to any certain distance. You're curious Turn on that dopamine, right? Just use your curiosity. That's what, and this actually helps with your curiosity, so that can help with dopamine, even with Parkinson's. We can help a little bit with it. So now in sitting, you feel your two sitting bones. You know what those are at the bottom of your pelvis, those two big bones here on either side. And at the bottom, you might feel, oh, there's one, and oh, there's the other. So you may feel those on the chair. Feel your feet on the ground. And that there's a movement as you're breathing. Your belly goes out and goes in. And you're just observing. Easiest way to observe our breath is to observe our movement as we're breathing. Is there any movement in your chest? Again, there's no right or wrong. You just see where you notice it. And now think of like your belly button going a little bit backwards. And you're going to be, we often call rounding your back a little. Think of all those vertebrae, 24 between the base of the sacrum there, or the top of the sacrum, all the way up to the base of your skull. And it's like, almost like a little acquiescing, a little rounding. It's a good movement. As long you don't go so far that anything's uncomfortable. You may feel the movement rolling on your pelvis. And then maybe breathing in. You have your belly come a little forward, the belly button comes forward, and you notice that, oh, it unfurls your spine. And can you do that without really pushing at the shoulders? That it comes from below. We're going to really get very centrally and have that skeletal support, because skeletal support is where we have our safety. And the muscles move us, and the skeleton feeling that support can help us feel safe and better in the world when I talk about calming our system and about self-regulation. So now imagine all those vertebrae. They're like, you could think of them all stacked up, one after the other in our back. And when you go to have a little rounding happen, that the belly button goes in, think of all of them equally doing it. When we have equal distribution, I'll explain. It's like little bird mouths are opening between every pair of them toward the back. And then you gently come forward. It's like you get taller and smaller, letting it come from below. Your shoulders are just resting. So often we think about our posture being our shoulders, and it's actually not the shoulders. There's something below coming up to support them. And talking about our safety and all is when if there's any part of us that senses there isn't something below it, meaning it has safety in a way to support it in gravity, will rise up because we're unsure, we're unsafe. So you want to show yourself it's safe by coming up from below, and your shoulders go, oh, I can rest there on you. I don't have to do anything. I'm okay like I am. That's very crucial. Not that I have to be something else. And then while you're there, we're going to try something a little different, is if you could scoot over to the right side of your chair, just a little bit to have a little more space to the left. And you're going to put your hand on the chair, your palm, like this. And if it hurts to bend the wrist that much, then you can just do it a little less. Maybe it'll, but you know, as best as you can, it looks something like this is your hand. It looks like that. Okay? See there, I'm turning it. So you have your hand here. And then can you turn your hand a little to the back? Turn the fingers like they turn around themselves. Only an amount that's safe and easy. Everything's oh, do you notice? Does it make your head want to turn that way? It's interesting. I didn't say you can't turn your head, but you know, the arm connects up to the shoulder, to the spine, and to the head, and you can allow it just to bring it along. We're going to start to feel how things feel connected. And when they feel more connected, they work better. That's it. So you can turn your hand and you can look a little to the left. And you may notice, maybe not. So everything's, you know, like a story. You know, do you notice if one knee goes a little bit back? Go slowly, like you're enjoying the journey. You're not just trying to get anywhere because there's no there. We're just trying to turn a nice amount and come back. And then let's leave that and rest a moment. Feel the rest. Feel sometimes during the rest, you'll notice, whew, now I can start breathing. So maybe next time we can breathe through the entire little segment. And now we're going to come forward, and this time we'll try the other side. you know. So first, you just sit a moment. You might notice, did that change your weight on your sitting bones from the little difference we did? It may not, but you can notice if there's any difference you feel on one side compared to the other. We'll often do those comparisons, like I said, just kind of training the brain to notice things. And so then now you come a little to your left. It's just really just to give a little space to your right. And then you have the palm like this, and we're going to turn it and have the fingers turn a little forward, and that can make your head kind of look forward. And then the fingers, remember the palms turning like that, turn a little back. Of course, that turns in your arm. Nothing that hurts. Does it make one knee go a little backwards? Is it your right knee as you turn to the right? And you're breathing the whole time. So I'm going to explain something. When we look for even distribution of weight, I want to mention something. As you feel that, feel your chest turning, your head turning. You come back to the middle, and let's rest a moment against the back of the chair. How's the back of the chair feel now? Is it getting any more comfortable to sit? Watching your breathing, really letting go of the concentration. The pause is for that. It's to recuperate, but it's also because you don't realize it, but in the background, your nervous system is integrating information. So I wanted to mention something about even distribution. Even distribution of work does not mean everything's equal. It means the big muscles do the big work and the small muscles do the small work. But the sensation you will have is just more lightness and ease and more of feeling whole, which is wonderful, especially when we've had a neurological issue. Things can be easier. So let's come to the front of the chair and we'll try something. How about something a little novel? I'll mention things so that you know what I'm referring to and how we speak to the nervous system. So let's go again a little to the right of the chair. Just have a little space. And you put your hand here. And you notice that when the fingers turned back, you turned your head, with them. It felt like it kind of went together because the arm turned, the spine turned. You feel like it's like a chain reaction, like dominoes until the head turns. Well, now, as your hand goes back, have your head look forward. And then as the fingers turn to come forward, can you look a little bit towards your hand? Now, this is opposite what we usually do. So just do it really small. Sometimes I call this opposite day. We're doing something novel. So this will make your brain pay attention like, well, that's different. That's out of habit. So we're doing something we're gentle. We trick the brain. We just do something a little out of habit so it pays attention. Easy. That's it. And then you come back and rest for that a moment. Okay. I was checking if there's any messages from anyone. There we are. And so now, before we don't even need to do the other side. Actually, I'll tell you why. Because we'll sit here a moment. Your brain is busy working on the other side. You love that? It evens things out. I like to say the other side is the same side as the middle. But let's do that comparison of toward, our left side, turning our hand where everything goes together and feel if that's any easier. Yeah. And this is where the fingers go back and the head turns back. Nice. And then you come back. Yeah. Whew. So let's sit against the back of the chair, feel the contact. And I think it's a wonderful thing that we can work toward one side. Remember, even when we turn coming back, that's the beginning of turning the other way. Our brain is already, while we sit, it's processing. If it thinks it's a good idea, it'll start to transfer it. But during the few moments where we feel a difference, that's nice. We want to take note because learning can happen. And let's come back to the front of the chair just to visit a moment, getting rounded at our back. And how's that going? If you'd maybe feel a few vertebrae participating that weren't before. You don't go real far. You could think of it as you're watching like a little cute pony, maybe with a colorful rein. So you don't do extra in your neck. Think of all of it, every part doing a little. So it's not a super bending in your neck. Your neck just does the amount, and you're watching the little pony run down the wall and onto the floor, and then you watch it run back up. Isn't that a nice image? Yes, I see more quality in the room. Beautiful. And there you are. And let's go back to a movement we had done. Can you just, as if you were going to put your hands on a keyboard? How's that? Oh, is that any lighter now? Any easier? So we do, and it's always like, how did that happen? Try the other one, especially the one, the one that needs more. More it will take in more. You will take in more for that. It's like, when you have the sheep that runs away, all the other sheep are close by. You have to run after the one that goes away. Your nervous system is always going for homeostasis and balance. So what is needed the most is the biggest thing that will change because you're one system. You're not just an arm and a leg and so on. So you'll notice that what needed it the most will be what changes the most because it's trying to get everything back in balance. And so, two arms, see what that's like. And we have to close. We do have a free lesson for you. And I also wanted to mention, I hate to, and I think you probably even were going to ask this, Sherry, can I just a short mention of what havening techniques is, and then we can find out more about it later, like
Yeah, I
a
want to.
phrase.
I want to take time for a couple more questions, right? So I'm going to
Okay,
ask, go ahead and please put out the poll for our session here. And while people are answering that,
great.
we have a couple more questions. And Izzy did just drop that link into the chat that you were
Oh,
talking about.
good for the free
Do you want to
lesson. Great.
do you want to explain that though? Just a quick brief, the gift you've
Mhm.
just given everyone?
Yes. So what I just did is a Feldenkrais lesson. And then if you'd like to write in the chat and tell me, did you notice any difference? And if you didn't, not to feel pressure that, oh, I should have noticed difference, that it's all right. Because you can hear it as a story, and with time that will come. So your response and how it is fine. I think it spoke some for itself. I hope so. And there's definitely a chance to do another lesson as well. I was just going to mention what havening techniques is because I bring that in. Or
Well, yeah, and but if I can interrupt, Dorothy, only
it's
because I
fine.
think this question will feed into that, and I want to get
Yes.
to it. So we've got a couple of
Okay.
people who are asking about the Havening technique, craniosacral,
Great.
anat banal. I think hopefully
I
that's
see.
gonna. Yeah, so how do all of these work together, fit together? I know some of them are very different, some of them are similar. So anyway, if you can kind of give
Yes.
everybody how that all works, fits together.
Well, I want to mention first havening techniques because it's also something that I'm certified in, which always make sure if it's a havening techniques practitioner, you want to work in this, make sure they're a certified practitioner. If it's Feldenkrais, make sure they are a guild certified Feldenkrais practitioner. I know that can come up like, how do I know, that I should do that? But havening techniques, it's also neuroscience-based approach, and that's what's wonderful. It's a new and promising methodology that's for releasing the emotional pain of the past, reducing stress, and enhancing overall well-being. And it can help people let go of something in their past that is still troubling to them, or they want to release some inner block that gets in the way of them creating the life they want. And it's rapid, it's effective, it's based in neuroscience and uses touch, attention, and imagination to trigger electrochemical changes in the brain that alter how memories are processed and helps increase resilience. So havening techniques complements Feldenkrais with its parallel foundations in neuroscience. And I can, again, show more on that later. And also specific, like as far as with MS, I have presentations on each one of these with the studies that support it. Now, you mentioned several methods, and uh, many of them are a somatic education approach, a somatic. What is somatic? Soma comes from the Greek word for body. So it means living, sensing through your body, which is really how we learn anything. We have to own it. We have to embody it, sense it to really get it. You know that. You have to have tried it. You have to feel it. So it's a somatic education, meaning it's entering in this way. Now they have differences with how they do it, how that's done. Anat Banil will have a lot of similarity because the method which was created by Anat Banil, and I don't want to be someone to explain it much because it's not something I'm trained in. However, she did begin with Feldenkrais. She took it into her own muscular approach. And so that is some of their similarities. Is that a beginning? And craniosacral, different still how it approaches it, but still based on more of what you're sensing. Is that
Yeah,
helpful?
thank you. Yeah,
Sure.
thanks for the comparison on that. There was a couple of questions about
Mhm.
how many sessions do you typically need? And I know that's, again, we're back to
Good
precision
question.
medicine here. So, but
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm.
why don't you speak to that? That and the cost a little bit. I know, I just want you to book in kind of ranges of cost here,
Yeah,
Dorothy.
ranges of cost. Because I do have a membership available, and I can, I think, sign up for this lesson, and you'll get some information about it. I have a free lesson that I think Izzy has put in the chat, and it's a wonderful. You can even do it in bed, and it's just wonderful for freeing your hips, and also is based on these ideas for how it helps you self-regulate as well. I love that way that goes together with this approach. And I find with individual sessions, which that you would be in town, let's say, or close enough to do that with me. And this is from experience, more than 20 years. And the programs that I do, I find even just getting going with 3 or 4 can really make a difference. That can make a huge difference. And then we can decide and reevaluate at that point. Sometimes people have something they're working on, they want ongoing. Or when they've had a neurological issue, they say, I want ongoing. This is helping me ongoing. And the illness keeps acting on me. So, but they are having changes. I mean, I have people that would not be walking, they said, if they weren't doing this. And one woman said, I just thought, well, that's how it is. I have to have pain my whole life. She doesn't have pain. And she walks with a walker, but she doesn't have pain. So I think that there's that possibility. The other is doing it in a group setting. And most of that now I am doing online, which has been wonderful. We're a wonderful community called My Move. And that there's also a library of lessons. If you can't make a live time, I can recommend something. It's really wonderful in conjunction with the lessons that I do in person. I also can do individual sessions online. That this is anecdotal but I can tell you 100% from my experience, people have thought, I don't know if I've had it with you individually, what's that going to be like? It won't be the same. It's not the same, but 100% we're absolutely surprised at how effective it is. So I can do that online as well. So those are some of the choices. For the classes, the membership's very reasonable, it has a monthly fee that you can do, or annual makes it even less. Should I speak about actual numbers, or I can send out information
No,
about that?
I think that's
Yeah.
good, Dorothy. Yeah. I mean, I
Hmm.
think so you've answered the number of questions, and I think people can go to your website and reach out to you individually for more information.
Please.
I love that you have this online component as well as in person, and that is not the case. You can go to feldenkrais.com and look and see if you're not anywhere near Louisville and you can't get to Dorothy and you want something in person, you can go to that, put in your zip code, and you can find guild certified practitioners in your area. So I do encourage you to do that. Reach out to Dorothy if you're anywhere close and you want to give it a try online, though. And Dorothy, thank you so much for gifting us that lesson. I encourage people to do that and take a look at it. I did mention that my mom really benefited from this, but I also just last week pulled my back and my hip was out and I went on and got a lesson and I found one online. I did not go to Dorothy, which I should have, but I was just in the moment like
Okay.
what can I do? I knew about somatic movement, I knew about Feldenkrais. I found something super quick online and literally it opened it back up and the next day I was kind of back to normal. It took 2 or 3 days, but it was those small little tiny movements I did a couple of times that day. So I am a huge believer personally. I know that it works. And please do reach out to Dorothy. You can, her website, Dorothy, why don't you just tell everybody what your website is real quick?
I can also just drop it in the chat. But it's my move, which is because I say my move because it's for you to make the move for yourself, and it's for you, is mymove.integrativemovement.us. Or just go to my main site, integrativemovement.us, which is
That's
awesome.
awesome. And why don't you please do drop that in the chat, Dorothy, so
I think it
everybody
would
can
be
have it.
helpful. Right.
Yeah, actually, I think Izzy put it in there already. I see it. I see it
Oh,
in
she
there in the
did?
chat.
Oh,
Well,
good.
yeah, and it was that. So,
And also the lesson is there as well. Yeah.
and the lesson is there. And thank you again for that lesson that you just gifted us, and for the lesson that you gave us online in the demonstration. Okay, Dorothy, I will reach out the next time I am in Kentucky, and I look forward to maybe coming to see you as a patient to
There
work
we
you a
go.
couple of
Okay.
days.
And I just wanted to close, with really something that, from my heart I would love. I mean, change is inevitable, isn't it? I mean, together we can direct the change in a way that is positive for you. So if there's one thing I would like to share with everyone to remember, is that living with a neurological issue, an illness, or an injury isn't just about managing what has changed. It's about discovering what is still possible.
Mm. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And you have been the perfect close to our summit. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
bringing us to a close. Thank you for your superpower, not only language, but in the visuals of your suit. It's super inspiring. And I think the other big thing I liked about having you as the end piece, we've been talking about all these interventions, all these technologies, and you really just brought it back into us, the individual, and the power that lies within us in our own body. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me here.
Okay, bye-bye, Dorothy.
Bye.
Um,